I never should have answered the phone that night, but it's the second time my car broke down that truly ruined me. My name is Leah, and this is what happened on Highway 17, the stretch of road they call the Ribbon of Silence. I was driving back from a disappointing weekend, visiting my cousin. The trip was supposed to be a reset, but all it did was highlight the stagnant pool my life had become. The argument Wed had was still buzzing in my ears, a dull hum beneath the drone of my old Honda's engine. The highway was a black river under a moonless sky, my headlights cutting 2 lonely tunnels through an absolute darkness. I'd been driving for 3 hours and hadn't seen another car for the last 45 minutes. The only signs of life were the occasional, weathered reflectors on the guardrails, winking at me before being swallowed by the night behind. The air inside the car was stale, smelling faintly of old coffee and my own restless exhaustion. I was just thinking about pulling over to try and sleep for an hour when a sickening, rhythmic thump-thump-thump started from the front of the car. The steering wheel vibrated violently in my hand. A flat. Just perfect. I cursed, my voice loud and small in the cramped cabin, and guided the shuddering vehicle onto the narrow gravel shoulder. The car settled at a drunken angle. Getting out was like stepping into a sensory deprivation tank. The silence was immense, a physical weight pressing in from all sides. The air was cold and carried the clean, damp scent of pine from the unseen forests that line the road. As I fumbled with the cheap jack from my trunk, my phone, which had been sitting in the cup holder with 1 bar of service, suddenly lit up. The screen displayed, "Unknown caller." My heart did a little stutter. Who would be calling me out here now? Against every logical bone in my body, I swiped to answer. "Hello?" Static crackled, a sound like frying bacon, then a voice, distant and shredded, as if coming from the bottom of a well. "Leah, don't!" A surge of static then. "Get back! In!" The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my blood running cold. It was probably just a bad connection, a crossed wire. It had to be, but it knew my name. I forced a shaky laugh. "Get a grip, Leah," I muttered to the oppressive dark. "It's just a flat tire." I worked faster, my fingers clumsy with a cold that was only partly from the night air. The jack groaned as it lifted the car, the metallic sounds unnaturally loud. I had just finished tightening the last lug nut when a new sound cut through the silence. It was a low, guttural humming, not from an engine, but from a throat. It seemed to come from the trees directly across the road. It was a wet, rhythmic sound, like someone trying to clear a blockage while also attempting to mimic a tune. I froze, crouched by the wheel well. My breath held. The humming stopped. A twig snapped in the woods. I didn't wait. I threw the flat tire and the jack into the trunk, not even bothering to close it properly, and scrambled into the driver's seat, locking the doors with a frantic slap of my hand. The engine turned over with a reassuring roar. I peeled away from the shoulder, gravel pinging against the undercarriage. In my rearview mirror, I saw nothing but empty road and impenetrable darkness. I drove recklessly, my hands clenched on the wheel, my eyes darting between the road and the mirror. I kept expecting to see a figure, a pair of eyes, something. But there was nothing. After 10 minutes, my heart began to slow its frantic rhythm. The phone call had been a fluke. The sound in the woods? An animal, maybe a fox or a badger. I was letting my anxiety and the creepy atmosphere get the better of me. I took a deep, shuddering breath. I was safe. I was moving. That's when the smell hit me. It was faint at first, a coppery tang, like old pennies, mixed with the cloying sweetness of spoiled meat. I glanced at the vents. Had something died in the heating system? I turned off the fan, but the smell only grew stronger, thickening the air until it was a taste at the back of my throat. And then, a cold spot. A pocket of air so frigid it made the skin on my right arm prickle with goosebumps. The temperature in the rest of the car remained the same. I looked at the passenger seat. It was empty. But the cold was undeniable, a winter chill radiating from the leather. A soft, wet clicking sound started from the footwell of the passenger side. Click, 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 clack. It sounded like teeth chattering, or long fingernails tapping against plastic. My blood turned to ice water. I couldn't look. I just stared straight ahead, my foot pressing the accelerator closer to the floor. The car began to shudder again. Not a flat tire this time. This was different. A deep, grinding vibration from the engine, followed by a violent loss of power. The check engine light flashed a frantic, orange hellos. The car coughed, sputtered, and with a final, dying groan, the engine cut out completely. I was coasting, the silence roaring in my ears. I guided the dead car to another stop on the shoulder, the tires crunching on the gravel in a horrifying echo of my first stop. This can't be happening. This isn't real. I was hyperventilating, my chest tight. I grabbed my phone. No service. The screen was a mocking black rectangle. The interior light had died with the engine. I was sitting in near total darkness. The smell of blood and rot was now suffocating. The clicking from the passenger seats stopped. And then, a new sound. A slow, deliberate inhalation, a wet, rattling breath drawn from the empty seat beside me. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I could only sit there, paralyzed, as the thing in my car exhaled, and the passenger window fogged over. A single, long, bone-white finger emerged from the fog and began to drag itself slowly across the glass. It wasn't writing a word. It was just drawing a line, a slow, screeching line down the pane. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. The finger was too long, too thin, the nail cracked and dirty. It reached the bottom of the window and stopped. The silence returned, heavier than before. And then, a voice, not from the phone this time, but from right next to my ear. It was a dry, papery whisper, layered with the same guttural hum I'd heard in the woods. It spoke only 4 words. "I fixed your tire." My vision tunneled. A high-pitched whine filled my head. I fumbled for the door handle, my fingers numb and useless. I finally found it, shoved the door open, and tumbled out onto the cold gravel, scrambling backward on my hands and knees, my eyes locked on the open car door. The interior was a pool of absolute blackness. Nothing emerged. I turned and ran. I ran without direction, stumbling along the edge of the highway, my sobs tearing at my throat. I don't know how long I ran before I saw the distant glow of headlights. I stumbled into the road, waving my arms, tears of relief streaming down my face. A trucker stopped. He was a big, kind-faced man who asked no questions as he loaded my shaking, incoherent self into his warm, normal-smelling cab. He drove me to the next town, to a gas station that was a beacon of fluorescent light. The police were called. An officer drove me back to my car the next morning, the sun glaring down, making the world seem ordinary and safe. My Honda was still there, perched on the shoulder. The flat tire was still in the trunk. The passenger side window was clean. There was no smell. The mechanic who told it later said he couldn't find anything wrong with the engine. It started right up for him. They all thought ID had a panic attack, a stress-induced hallucination. I almost let myself believe it. Almost. But last night, as I was trying to fall asleep in my own bed, my phone, charging on my nightstand, lit up. The screen glowed in the dark room. No number. No name. Just a single line of text. It read, "You left your window down." I haven't slept since. I keep all the lights on. And I keep my car keys in my hand. Not because I plan on driving, but because they told me a key fob can sometimes be traced. I sit by the window, watching the empty street, listening. Because I know it's not about the car or the road. It was never about the car, it's about the passenger. And I think it's still looking for a ride. What about you guys? What's the one sound, the one specific noise that would make your blood run cold if you heard it alone in the dark? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you want to help this channel be a safe haven for other stories like mine, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next tale from the shadows. Stay safe out there.